Week 5, Part 1, Readings 9.1 Audience and 9.2 Conferences. 9.1 Audiences. Audience is always an important consideration in any communication. If the goal of a speaker or writer is to communicate, the receiver of the communication must be taken into consideration. While concrete elements impact the means of consideration, you can't text someone who doesn't have the means to receive a text, and rhetorical considerations impact the modes. Is the goal to persuade or to inform? The individual with whom you are communicating is your primary audience and your main consideration. As is so often the case, it's rarely as simple as focusing on a primary audience. Even if you have a defined primary audience you know well, you generally have secondary and tertiary or third-level audiences too. And your primary audience may not be a single person. And your communication generally takes place within a larger discourse community and is impacted by the expectations of communication within that group, academy, industry, and potentially within subgroups, academic discipline and department, field and company. If we zoom out, we also see that our communications occur within larger social and cultural structures and languages, each of which adds another layer to our consideration of audience. Nuances like tone and humor and allusions rarely translate seamlessly across languages, let alone cultures. For our purposes, our primary audiences are academic and public. Initially, your literacy narrative was written for a university-level credit-bearing course at USF. The content was engaged by your peers and your instructor. Perhaps you asked a friend or family member for feedback, too. You can reasonably expect that the product you created will not be circulated beyond this audience without reason. The product that you constructed for those purposes has been submitted, and now you will translate that product to a new primary audience, readers of the Digital Archive of Literacy Narratives. The DALN is a public, searchable source and resource. Numerous other individuals have uploaded literacy narratives, a few of which you have engaged. These uploaded narratives can be located by anyone, anywhere in the world. Some have been uploaded as text and others as video or audio. Some have been uploaded anonymously and others have a stated author. Some are very personal and others are not. Some were written for other initial audiences, like college classes, and others were not. Most of us work in spaces that are public. But when we interact in and with public spaces, we usually receive content instead of creating and distributing material. Spaces where we create and post content are often semi-public and allow us to have some control over managing who sees what and when and for how long. When we post to a public resource like the DALN, we are handing over our work to a site we do not manage or control. In fact, much of what we search or say on the internet is actually accessible to oversight from a browser or platform or government or other regulators. While it is valuable to have a web presence and to be findable, it is also invaluable to think through the impact of public conversations and communications. Uploading your work to the DALN allows you to share your experiences with others, but if you choose to do so, you should do so in a way that makes you comfortable. You will not be graded on what you upload to the DALN or on the fact that you upload to the DALN. The main goal is to allow you to practice conscientiously shifting and switching a text for a new audience. To start, consider a few questions. Do you think others can benefit from reading your story? Does the freedom associated with the DALN open any opportunities for you to explore your story in a different way? Length, tone, video, audio, visuals? Is there anything in your literacy narrative that you do not feel comfortable sharing with the public audience now? How about 20 years from now? Do you want to keep your name on the text? Do you mention any other names? Should those individuals be asked how they feel about having their names shared in a public space? What other considerations do you generally think of before you post in a public space? After you think through why and how to translate your narrative for a public audience, make any changes you want and upload your revised narrative to the DALN. Then write and upload one paragraph for the assignment on audience. Assignment 9.1. Consider how you would revise your literacy narrative in order to prepare it for the public audience of the DALN and answer the following. Describe the role of formal academic conventions and expectations, such as following MLA, writing within a word count, and submission for a grade, on your creation of the literacy narrative. 2. Discuss the impact of a public audience on the modifications you would make, such as removing names for privacy. 3. If you had unlimited time and resources to invest in telling the story of your relationship with literacy, how would you tell the story? Meme, movie, musical, poem? And with whom would you share your creation? 4. Finally, state whether or not you decided to upload your revised narrative to the DALN and why. 9.2. Conferencing. The goal of including student-teacher conferences is to allow students to communicate with their instructors individually using Teams. Scheduling a week for conferencing immediately following the submission of your literacy narrative is designed to allow you to discuss your experience in ENC 1101 so far, and consider not only your development, but how to continue and improve your development over the subsequent projects. Make sure that you clarify with your instructor the best time for online meetings. Fill out any sign-up form or sheet your instructor creates, and schedule an appointment in Teams. Your paper will be submitted, but probably won't be graded yet, which is also intentional. The goal of the conference is not for your instructor to copy edit your paper before submission, or to review the feedback, or even to focus primarily on the one product of P1 at all. If you have a specific question about an assignment and would like to meet with your instructor in a one-on-one online meeting, please communicate with your instructor before the assignment is due. Our intention for the conference is to discuss the term so far and make sure that everyone has had a chance to reflect on the successes and challenges from Project 1 in order to be prepared for success in Project 2. Of course, you can ask questions that include or go beyond your literacy narrative, but try to look forward with the goal of continued learning and growth. In preparation for your conference, think about the term up to this point. What questions do you have for your instructor? What feedback do you have to offer your instructor in relation to the content, assignments, activities, or instruction? Sometimes we don't get a chance to ask all our questions or share our thoughts as we move through the assignments, but doing so can be important for you and for your instructor. Specifically, consider the feedback your instructor has offered throughout Project 1. What pieces of feedback helped you most, and why were they helpful? How did you work to respond to the feedback? As part of this assignment and in your conference, feel free to talk about what helped and perhaps what you'd like to do more of as the term continues. If anything hindered your learning, feel free to discuss that too. If you have any questions about USF or external resources, take this chance to ask. Your peers have been and can be a great resource, but this post is only for your instructor. Assignment 9.2. Complete the following questions in preparation to meet with your instructor individually. 1. How and when will you meet online with your instructor, and what contact information is needed to connect? 2. What questions do you have for your instructor? 3. What feedback do you have to offer your instructor? 4. Did your instructor provide any specific instructions on how you should prepare for the conference, or what you should prepare? If so, what are they, and what have you done to fulfill the stated expectations? 5. List 3 specific pieces of feedback you have received from your instructor over the course of Project 1. Discuss what you learned from the feedback and how you can use it to improve your writing. Note, your instructor may shift the due date for this assignment depending on the conferencing schedule. This is the end of readings 9.1, Audience, and 9.2, Conferences.